another edition of the Common Man's Take on Sports with Kevin. And
Quentin.
since next weekend is opening weekend for college football, Labor Day weekend, we're going to talk about who we think right now before the season starts, our predictions for who will win the conference championships and who we think will make the playoffs this year. And then we'll revisit this a little later. But before we start, there was a couple of games played yesterday. And so I want to talk about those for a few minutes real quick here at the beginning, Quentin. So the first game is Notre Dame and Navy. So Notre Dame took care of business. They beat Navy like they should have, 42-3. They came out. They played good defense, played good offense. I think Notre Dame looks good. I do like their coach Marcus Freeman. I think he's good for them. I think he's going to be able to connect with the young kids as far as recruiting goes a lot better than Brian Kelly was able to. Now I do think that Brian Kelly has a staff at LSU that kind of helps him with that, connecting with the young kids. But anyway, I think Notre Dame's going to be tough this year. Obviously, they're independent, so they don't play in a conference. I think they have to play 5 games with against 5 ACC teams. You pull up their schedule and see who those ACC teams are this year.
Let me see. Okay.
Give you a quick prediction of, let's see, North Carolina State. Ooh, they got to play Ohio State again. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Duke,
That's gonna be good.
Louisville, Pittsburgh, and they have Clemson.
Wake Forest.
So Notre Dame's got a tough road. Clemson's going to be a tough matchup for them. Ohio State will be a tough matchup. Right now, I see 1, 2, maybe 3. I'm not sold on USC yet, but I see 2 losses. I think they're going to be on Notre Dame's schedule. One is Ohio State. I don't think they'll beat Ohio State. They might because they get them early, but we'll see how that one plays out. I mean, they do have a good defense, so Ohio State's new quarterback could be struggling a little bit in that game with that Notre Dame defense. I think Notre Dame's got a better offense this year than they had last year, but I'm not sure because it's, they did what they did against Navy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Navy and Ohio State and Clemson are two different animals when it comes to football. So I think Notre Dame could have 2 to 3 losses on their schedule this year. Pittsburgh may give them trouble. Pittsburgh usually has a tough defense. We'll see. But right now, the Ohio State and Clemson games will be pretty large matchups for Notre Dame, I think. So as far as that goes, I don't think Notre Dame will make the playoff this year. Just my opinion. It doesn't make it right or wrong. I just don't think they're going to make it. You can go back now. The other game I want to talk about though is USC. And boy, did I call that in our first podcast, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
That USC against San Jose State. They allowed San Jose State to throw up 28 points on them. And so what's significant about that is at the half, it was 21-14. 21-14. That is pretty significant. And so that is the Achilles heel that I mentioned, in our first podcast is USC and their defense. It's going to be a tough road for them this year if that defense doesn't tighten up. They gave up 396 total yards to San Jose State. And so, although you'll never completely shut a team down because if you get up a certain amount, the other team is going to score because you got your third stringers in, whatever. But that was not the case in this game. San Jose State was throwing up points and racking up yards on USC's first team defense. First team defense. So that does not bode well for USC going forward or their playoff hopes. or their hopes of winning the Pac-12 championship, because you can't. They allowed San Jose State to average 7.3 yards per rush attempt. Think about that for a minute. 7.3 yards per rush attempt. That's crazy. San Jose State's time of possession was 30 minutes and 42 seconds. USC's was 29 minutes and 18 seconds. You do that against an Oregon, a Utah,
Or Notre Dame.
Or Notre Dame, and you are not winning that game. I know that Lincoln Riley came out after the game and was like, hey, it's defense is a work in progress. I'm confident that they're going to improve. They better improve, or USC can hang their season up. There's no way giving up 396 yards to San Jose State that they can even think that they're going to. They gave up 198 rushing yards to San Jose State. Almost 200 rushing yards, 198. There's no way they should have given up 198 rushing yards to San Jose State. Not if you're USC. You should not be giving up that many rushing yards.
They also gave up 3 passing touchdowns in that game.
Also very true. Again, that's that defense. I'm telling you. That defense, that's going to be their Achilles heel again this year, is the defense. You gotta do something about that defense. I don't know what he's going to do, but he better figure something out, because he still has to play Colorado, Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, and Oregon are all looming large on their schedule. And UCLA, I'm pretty sure, gave them a hard time last year also. So, they better figure something out quick, or I'm telling you right now, everybody picking them for the playoff, they're going to be crying, because USC ain't making the playoff. They're not making the playoff, excuse me. Playing defense like that, because I'll tell you right now that Notre Dame will beat them, Utah will beat them, Washington will beat them, and Oregon will beat them playing that type of defense. So Lincoln Riley better figure something out. I don't care if Caleb Williams throws for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. You're not going to outscore another team who has a good defense and an average offense. They're always going to have a chance to beat you, because they're going to get timely stops when you can't. You take an average offense and put it against a lackluster defense, and it looks like a superstar offense, right? So, yeah, USC better figure that out if they have any hopes of being in the playoff or winning a national title. So, just want to talk about those 2 games. Those were the big games played this weekend. There's a couple others, but not quite as high profile as those 2. What's your takeaway from that USC San Jose State game and that Notre Dame Navy game?
Okay. So first, let's start with the Notre Dame and Navy game. Notre Dame did what they should have done. They scored 42 points. They only led Navy to 3 points. They did what they should have done. Sam Hartman did good in his debut at Notre Dame. And I want to check their schedule. So, the Ohio State game right here.
Mm-hmm.
The Clemson and the USC game.
Okay.
Now, I think they might have a chance to beat Ohio State right here.
They did almost beat them last year. They played Ohio State pretty tough all the way to the end, because Notre Dame's got a good defense.
Yeah. And I think that's going to occur for this year as well. For Clemson,
that's Marcus Freeman's calling card right there. He was the defensive coordinator, so he's a defensive-minded coach. Their defense is always going to be good. Offense is where they struggled last year, which the first game against Navy, it looked like their offense has improved from last year.
Yep. I think they're gonna give Ohio State struggles this year, like they did last year. And the Clemson game, I think they're gonna give Clemson struggles as well, like they did last year. I think they're gonna give Clemson a little struggles, but I think Clemson will come away with the win.
Okay.
USC, it's
USC's kind of fixed their defense, or they won't beat anybody of relevance.
I think USC might be able to come over with the win, but it's gonna be tough there. But I think USC could just slightly get Notre Dame. Pittsburgh always has a tough defense. Pittsburgh has a tough defense. I think they'll come away with the win in that one. All I see right here is when I see on their schedule, I see only two losses.
So Notre Dame, unfortunately, being independent, they pretty much have to go undefeated to make the playoff. Because the reason is at the end of the season, when everybody else is playing a conference championship game, they're sitting at home. They have no conference championship. So that's why it's easier for, say, a 2-loss SEC team that may win a conference championship to get in over a 2-loss Notre Dame team, because they'd have a conference championship under the belt, or a 2-loss Big Ten team. You know, if they're playing for the conference championship and win it, Notre Dame has 2 losses and they have 2 losses. Unfortunately for Notre Dame, that conference champion's probably going to get in over them just because they don't play a conference championship. So Notre Dame basically has to go, most years they have to go undefeated to get in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with our predictions. We're going to start with the ACC. I'm going to give mine, then I'll let you give yours. So as I look down at the ACC, I see Clemson, Florida State, maybe North Carolina, because
they're playing South Carolina.
They've done a good job down there recruiting. I think they might have a decent time in the ACC, but to be honest, I think Clemson's down year, they won the ACC last year, right? So
yeah.
I think Clemson has a better year this year with Cade Klubnik getting a lot of experience under his belt when he replaced DJ Uiagalelei. I think that he learned a lot, and I think he's going to be better this year, starting from the beginning, actually getting to go through a spring, the summer practices, and then the fall practices as a starting quarterback, and getting some rhythm and some reps with the starting wide receivers and tight ends and running backs. So I still think Clemson is king in the ACC. The only team that I think could give them a rough go of it is the Florida State Seminoles. They had a really good year last year.
With only 2 losses.
Yep, and I think they're going to be good again this year. I just don't know if they've reached the point where they can beat Clemson yet. So we'll see how that shakes out. Other than that, North Carolina could be in there. They could ruffle some feathers and maybe get a surprise win. But to me, it's Florida State or Clemson's going to win the ACC this year. What do you think? What's your thoughts?
My thoughts on Clemson against Duke right here. I think Cade Klubnik will do pretty good in his debut as a starter for Clemson.
Well, remember, he started the second half of the season.
Yeah, but starting the whole game.
He did. Second half of the season, he was the starter going for it. They benched DJ.
Oh, yeah. They did bench him.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Now the Florida State and LSU game. This is This is LSU winning this one right here. This is LSU. I think LSU will get revenge from last year's loss. I mean, Jordan Travis is a good quarterback, but I just think that LSU has a good defense.
So what you're telling me is you don't think that Florida State's going to win the ACC?
Yes, I'm telling you that. Florida State is not going to win the ACC.
Okay.
It's Clemson.
So Clemson. All right, let's
It's
move on to the Big 12. So
All
we
right.
got
Colorado, TCU.
We got Oklahoma, Baylor,
Colorado.
TCU, Texas. So,
Colorado joined the Big 12.
TCU won it. No, TCU did not.
Kansas State won.
Kansas State won it last year. I think. I don't know how TCU is going to deal with some of the losses they had. We'll have to see how that pans out. A lot of people are high on Texas. I think we talked in an earlier podcast. I'm not sold on Texas yet.
Yeah, we're not.
Every year, everybody keeps saying Texas is back, Texas is back. I haven't seen it yet. So until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. So to be honest, I think the Big 12 is a toss-up. I would probably go with Baylor might have a shot.
Yeah, I think Baylor has the best opportunity here.
Baylor, TCU. If Oklahoma can turn it around, Brent Venables, if he can. I know he took over the program. He lost a lot of people to transfer who followed Lincoln Riley over at USC. If he could turn that around, Oklahoma could be in the conversation. But to be honest, I think the Big 12 is a toss-up. Any one of those teams could win it this year who are on the top half. I'm going to have to see some Oklahoma State maybe, but I'm going to have to see some Big 12 games. I don't know. It's a mystery over there.
Yeah, it's a big mystery over there.
All right, so the Big 10.
Got Michigan.
My personal opinion, and this has nothing to do with me being a fan, I just think that they have the most coming back this year as far as returning starters on offense and defense. I think Michigan wins the Big Ten again this year for a third straight year. But I will say that Ohio State is always at the top of the conference, and it could easily go Ohio State's way this year, and they could go into the Big Ten championship. So honestly, Michigan or Ohio State could come out of the Big Ten, and I think the sleeper that everybody forgets about is Penn State.
Yes.
They recruit really well down there. For some reason, James Franklin the last couple of years just has not been able to beat Michigan or Ohio State. So we'll see if he can figure out that puzzle. Ever since Jim has brought in his new coaching staff, Michigan has owned Penn State and Ohio State for that matter. But we'll see what happens this year. I know Penn State has recruited really well. Just they're always at the top of the recruiting rankings along with Michigan and Ohio State. So they definitely have an opportunity to find their way into the Big Ten championship. But right now my pick is Michigan, just because they're two-time Big Ten champs, and I'll have to see Ohio State take that back from them.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, for me, I think Michigan has probably right now the best chance for a Big Ten championship. I also think people are sleeping on Penn State right here. James Franklin has he's done some good recruiting with his team, but like you said, he couldn't beat Michigan, Ohio State over the last few years.
I think both of them kind of rung him up for pretty pretty lofty defeats there.
Yeah, you just can't. You just can't beat them because they're like top teams in Big Ten. I think Michigan will probably be in the top 4. I think Ohio State has a chance to be in the top 4 for me, but I think Michigan will probably win a 3rd straight Big Ten championship this year.
All right, let's move on to the Pac-12. We got Arizona State, Arizona, California, Colorado, Oregon, Oregon State, Stanford, UCLA, USC, Utah, Washington, and Washington State. So here, when I was talking about USC, if they don't fix that defense, they're not winning this conference. My pick right now to win this conference would either be Utah to repeat as champions or Oregon to win that. The Pac-12 is my pick. I just don't or Washington or Oregon. Utah, Washington, or Oregon would be. Let's see, between those 3, I think I'm going to lean towards Utah. But USC's got to fix that defense, or they're not going anywhere. What do you think?
Well, for me, I think that Utah has a chance to win the Pac-12. Oregon, Washington, USC. I think they might have a chance. They might, but their defense they just need to fix it because they. I know they shouldn't.
398 yards to San Jose. Is San Jose State even a Division I school?
No, I don't.
I want to know that. Are they even a Division I school?
I'm not sure. I don't think.
That blew my mind yesterday when I saw that. I was like, wow. So they still haven't fixed that defense.
Yeah.
It's going to come back to haunt them, I'm telling you. All right, let's move on to the SEC. You got Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, all very good teams. Texas A&M's recruited well lately, but if I had to take my pick, I'm going to stick with Georgia until Alabama or somebody else can beat them. So I think Georgia wins the SEC championship again. If Georgia doesn't win it, my second pick would be Alabama. It's either Georgia or Alabama, but I'm going with Georgia for right now. What do you think?
For me, if Georgia doesn't win it, it's LSU for me. LSU's shown that it's not going to be so easy for Alabama to beat them. It's not going to be so easy. They showed last year with Jaden Daniels coming in, Brian Kelly coming in. Probably either Georgia, LSU, or Alabama would be the 3 teams that could win the SEC championship right there.
Just for the record, San Jose State is a Division I school. They're in the Mountain West Conference. I thought they were a Division I school. Could have fooled me. All right, so now we got that out of the way. I'm not going to go through the group of 5 because they would have to be there'd have to be a lot of upsets and heartbreaks for a group of 5 team to make it in. So I'm going to give you my prediction of who I think will be standing tall with a playoff spot at the end of the year. My prediction is Clemson, Michigan, Georgia. Are you ready for my last pick?
Yes, I'm ready.
My last pick to make it into the Final Four is Ohio State.
Okay,
I think that if they lose to Michigan again, that'll still be their only loss. And so I think that they could still get in as a 1-loss team. And so that's my top 4 right there. Ohio State, Clemson, Michigan, and Georgia. That's my picks.
my top 4 right here
Yep. Who do you think's going to be there at the end of the year?
be Michigan.
Okay. I like that.
I feel like LSU.
Ooh, okay.
I feel like they can win it. If they beat Alabama, they're probably going to be in the top 4.
Depends on who else they lose to.
Well, true.
Go ahead.
They've got to be.
So you got Michigan, LSU.
My third one. This is hard. I'd go with Clemson.
Okay.
And then my last and final team would have to be, for me, I feel like it has to be maybe Georgia. I think Georgia has a chance.
Now, are you ready for my picks for who makes it to the championship game?
Oh yes, I'm ready.
So, this is who I think will make it to the championship game. I think Michigan will play Georgia. Ohio State will play Clemson. And I think Michigan and Ohio State will play in the national championship game to avenge their losses from last year. And I think Michigan will win the national championship, beating Ohio State a second time in a row. And winning their first national title in almost 30 years. But this would be an undisputed national title that nobody could argue with.
Okay. So, for me, the championship, it would be Michigan versus Georgia. And LSU versus Clemson. Michigan is going to make it. And then I think Michigan will beat Georgia and get revenge on them from their loss 2 to 3 years ago. And I think this is hard. This is tough with LSU and Clemson. It always comes down to the wire in these games. It always comes down to the wire. I have a feeling LSU will beat Clemson, just barely beat Clemson. Barely. And then for my championship game, this is real tough because LSU and Michigan, really good teams. I feel like Michigan will just slightly win because they're a second half team. I think Michigan will just slightly get the win here in the championship. I feel like they can win it.
Interesting picks. All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
On another note, Mr. Victor Hovland won the FedEx Cup. Yep. He got a birdie on his last hole. He finished at a negative 27 under par overall, but Xander Schauffele was right behind him at a 22 under par, so it's a pretty close matchup there for the FedEx championship, but he pulled it out. Other than that, that is all I have for today. Is there anything else you want to add or talk about real quick? All right, we'll end our show there. We thank you for listening. That'll conclude our show for today. Please subscribe. We hope you've enjoyed it and you continue to listen. That's it for this episode.